You're welcome once again to this episode on Infosynthesis. I am Oson Mbono and your host as always. Today we will be looking at GMOs. You already know the conversation regarding the whole issue about control, government politics, and all whatnot. Of course, a lot of people out there are not necessarily educated or properly informed regarding what GMO really is. So we have different, leanings when it comes to understanding what it's all about. So today we have in the house an expert who would take us through what GMO really stands for, what it stands to give to the society, and what are the challenges that, of course, we as a society may have out of it. We have a hematologist whose specialty is in immunohematology. He is also a member of the Nigerian Biological Safety Association, a certified biorisk manager, and of course he lectures in a couple of medical schools in the country. I'm talking about ABSU, Rema University, and Gregory University. We have no other person than Dr. McCadicou Orji.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Doc.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. And it's, of course, our honor to have you, sincerely. Now, we don't know much about GMO, and of course, we know a lot of Nigerians also do not know much about it. And that's why we decided to get someone who knows it better than us. Please help us. What does GMO actually stand for?
Okay, thank you. It's a very interesting topic, and I'm happy to be, speaking on it. In as much as I wouldn't say in quote that I am a GMO expert, but I will be speaking from the standpoint of a scientist. And having gone through training and studies in the scientific field, I can say this. GMO stands for Genetically Modified Organisms. And these can be plants, could be animals, could be microorganisms. Any of these organisms would have had a part of their genetic material, the gene, modified one way or the other. So when we say genetically modified organisms, we mean those organisms that have had a part, a sequence of their genetic material, changed one way or the other for a purpose. Most basically, the genetic modification will be for, a better yield, a better trait of the concerned organism. Maybe a plant, you want it to have more yield. A plant, you want it to have more resistance to pesticides, or the pests themselves. So when you do a genetic modification, you say that particular plant is a genetically modified plant. The contrary to this, or the opposite of this, will be the organic material, the organic items, the organic plants, which have their natural genetic material, the way that nature lives it.
Okay, so the opposite of GMO is the organic.
Organic, yes.
Okay, so organic is the natural one.
Yes.
GMO is the modified.
Yes. So some authorities like to use the term non-GMO, but actually they are the organic.
Organic. Okay, of course you did just mention that based on certain requirements, these organisms could be modified to provide certain solutions.
Yes.
But why not leave it in its natural form?
Well, nature does genetic modifications as well, yes. But it takes ages. It takes a long time. Okay. Studying science, lets us know that having two species of a plant over and over within a field. Let's take, for example, you have a white corn and a yellow corn.
Okay.
Over a period of time, different generations of harvesting and breeding, you find some yellow seeds appearing within the white corn stalk. And you have some white seeds appearing in the yellow corn stalk. These were genetic materials changed by nature, either by transfer of pollen,
Okay.
And it's a natural crossbreeding process. So nature on its own even taught us at first genetic modification. And if we say we want to leave everything to the natural occurrence, we might have to spend eons of ages before we can get some desired traits in some organisms or maybe plants or even animals while we wait for nature to take its course.
Okay, thank you. You just mentioned crossbreeding, if I had you right. Is crossbreeding the same thing as GMOs?
We have the traditional methods, and crossbreeding is part of the traditional method, whereby we allow nature to take its course through mating and exchange of genes in nature, while the newest methods that are more precise would rather bring up a quicker response.
Yeah.
So crossbreeding, of course, and absolutely, is genetic modification.
Crossbreeding is genetic modification.
Yes.
Whether it is by nature.
Whether it's by nature or maybe enhanced by
In the laboratories.
Yes.
Okay. Now the next question would be, what are the benefits in terms of nutritional value of these modified organisms? Can it compare to the natural one, which we know is God-given natural organisms?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's a very interesting area. In as much as genetic modification is concerned, both what we regard as the organic organisms and the genetically modified ones have almost equivalent nutritional value. Yes. Looking at genetic modification, one may look at having more yield. You may want to have maybe a genetically modified soybean that gives you more protein content. You may look at genetically modified cotton seed that gives you more cotton oil, which is the other product apart from the cotton that we normally use. And these modifications tend to look towards enhancing human life, human existence. Nutritionally, some genetic modification methods have yielded the transfer of the precursor of vitamin A, beta carotene, into certain plants, like what we call the golden rice. A genetic modification has found a way to transfer that beta carotene, which is a precursor of vitamin A. The body metabolizes it to give the vitamin A, which is good for eyesight. Now, waiting for life to supply it, we may not be able to have that vitamin A in that species of rice.
May not.
We may not, yes. But with the genetic manipulation, the vitamin A is now part of that modified rice species. And so we are now using these modified organisms to achieve what we call a cure to the hidden hungers. In that there are micro elements, micronutrients that we may not easily come about, which the body needs. The natural obvious hunger is eat food, but getting the micronutrients is a hidden hunger. The body needs it, but how do we achieve them? So through genetic modification, these micronutrients and essential elements are now able to be, made available. And if I can lean on that, I would say yes, it improves human nutritional
needs.
Yes.
There are also the fear by most Nigerians, because if you listen to the conversation, that there could be also modification in at the cellular level of the consumers, because if they are consuming organisms that have been modified, there's also the fear that it could also alter the genetic formation of those who are consuming it, thereby possibly causing or creating certain ailments that we are hitherto unknown. How true can this be?
Okay, this is a very interesting aspect. Yes, I'll be happy to speak on this. Genetic modification is not just an all-comers affair.
Okay.
At best, it is a controlled area of science.
Okay, controlled area of science.
Yes. But one of the major concerns about genetic modification is, what if it falls into the wrong hands?
Okay, it's getting interesting.
As well. But if we are concerned with when it falls into the wrong hands, then there should be a controlling body. Already there are several organizations, starting from the popularly well-known WHO, the American Association of Scientists, the European angle, and so many CDCs, from the CDC of the US, the African CDC, and so on. The area and subject of genetic modification is strictly controlled. One, such that the process of genetically modifying organisms must look at allergenicity. How is the allergen propensity of an organism being controlled? So there will and there is always a strict and rigorous testing process, from animal testing down to the human testing. So if the proper processes are followed, the outcome, the end product is regarded scientifically to be safe, both from allergenicity to even another area that is of interest, toxicity. Now, following the proper process of genetic modification and having gone through the rigorous testing processes, the allergenicity of a particular organism that is to be modified and the eventual toxicity are tested rigorously. So if something has been certified, and there are several journals to attest to this, then all the fears we have out there in the public doesn't really stand ground. Take, for example, some people have an allergic reaction to peanut, and you're taking a gene from a very pest-resistant peanut. This peanut on its own resists pests, and you want to put it in soybean.
Okay.
The genetic process is just extracting that gene that makes that peanut to resist pests. And then through one of the several genetic processes, modification processes, you have CRISPR-Cas9, you have zinc finger, you have so many of them. So through one of these processes, this gene is inserted in the soybean seed, the genetic code of the soybean. But then, if people who are allergic to peanuts become allergic to soybean, they will eventually have problem. But due to the rigorous process of testing, the particular gene that can give the pest resistance is selected, while the peanut allergenicity is excluded. Also through this genetic modification process,
Okay.
because we are looking down at the genetic material, the DNA
that deoxyribonucleic acid that is the center point of each cell. So once those areas have been taken care of, you can be sure that you now have a new species, a new breed of soybean seeds that can yield as good as those good peanut seeds, and as also at the same time resist the pests that have been ravaging them. And when you have this kind of new products, you can be sure that because they pass through that process, that the issue of allergenicity and toxicity has been taken care of. Now, I may have spoken more on the allergenicity. The toxicity aspect is like this. You look at, okay, you are introducing a new gene to the new seed, and this new seed now normally produces a very small toxin on its own. The new gene you introduce, making it to give more yield, may make that normal toxin that is just okay for the human to be amplified. That's on the theory side. So without the testing, which I am stressing that genetic modification undergoes a rigorous testing process. Without the testing, we might be making a better soybean, but a soybean with higher toxicity. But if the testings were done correctly, you find out that scientifically you are only outputting a product, a new species that would withstand low or no allergenicity and low or no toxicity to the human beings who consume it.
Okay, now beyond the allergies and the toxins, like I asked, we are more particular about this, we are what we eat.
Yes.
From the layman's point of view.
Yes.
So if we are eating something that has been modified, wouldn't it also modify our blood cells, modify our bones, modifies our brains? Because we are introducing something that is not natural to the human body. That is where people are scared.
But it's not.
That's where people are scared.
But it's not out of the normal existence that we have. They may be modified, but what is more natural than what we have on Earth? See,
because now, most modification happen in the laboratory.
Yes.
So you are creating something here that may look similar to what is natural, but it is now for human consumption because there will not be high yield, pest resistance, low allergies, and low toxins. But what about the human beings that are consuming it?
Let me talk about the speculations, and I talk about the areas that have been actually knocked off, taken care of by science.
Okay.
Now, the speculation is what you've just said.
Yes.
That
people are scared.
What we eat, we are what we eat, and
Absolutely.
that these modified organisms may, in the long run, affect the human being. The genetic modification has been a long thing over time, naturally.
Okay.
But the new advances, the more precise genetic modifications that can target particular genes and modify them, are a 21st century advancement in science.
Okay.
And the time is too short. I think the earliest among the processes were from 1990s, no?
Okay.
Some 1980s, but they were not well modified. Now, between 1990s to now is a very short time compared to the age of the world itself. And genetic modifications, like I've said, have been happening all over time. Genes from one organism transferred to another naturally, and they have not killed us. Yes, that's one.
Okay.
Then secondly, whatever we eat are made up of building blocks of nutrients the proteins, the carbohydrates, the fats, the oils. These things get digested, including the DNA, which is a form of protein. They get digested. The body has to break them down to their micromolecules before recombining them according to the human being's genetic constitution for the different uses. Now, if we did not get killed by nature transferring things, it is preposterous to say that human beings helping nature to transfer things will eventually kill people. But time is too short anyway. So there is no large body of evidence, scientific evidence, to say what a very long time effect will be. But for the meantime, there has never been any documented evidence in any scientific journal to say that genetically modified organisms, food items, have caused problem. What we have are problems from contaminations, bacterial contaminations and so on and so forth, but not from the genetically modified, organisms in the food. And besides, it's not every food that is being genetically modified. It's just a few of them that we call the commodity crops.
And that's where people consume more. I had this conversation with a friend yesterday, and he was saying something that if you go to countries like Australia, like I think Australia, Canada, Brazil, that rear cattle, in ranches. He said that those cattle are fed modified foliages,
Yes.
and that's why they grow very, very quick, and they have lots of meat, just like when you have poultry. So his line of argument was that because they eat genetically modified foliage and feed, stock, and all that, that once you also consume those meat, drink the milk that's produced from those cattle, or consume the birds, that it also has an effect on the consumer. That sometimes you see that people, get overweight, get obese, for instance, or have other diseases. He even mentioned cancer, in fact, that he believes that there is a greater propensity or possibility of people getting sick by consuming, or getting modified, or rather, by consuming some of these genetically modified, organisms that you just mentioned now that are for commercial purposes, because oftentimes it's always for commercial purposes. So that is actually what people are afraid of. That you have this conversation, people are saying we don't want GMOs, even though most people may have been consuming it for a very long time without knowing.
Sure. Thank you for this submission. Most of the commercially available food items, food products, are made from these commercial commodities, the commodity crops. The corn, the soybean, the canola, beet sugar,
beet sugar,
alfalfa,
apples,
apple,
plantain,
most
bananas.
of these, like you mentioned, are used to feed the farm animals, which then grow fat. Now, you told me a story now, so I'll tell you a very short story.
Yes.
One day, I was walking into one of the shopping malls, one of them that have an eatery attached to it, and I saw a family, a woman coming out with about 3 or 4 kids, probably her children, and all of them are looking so robust, so poor, and fresh, like we say. And somebody was just passing beside me. We were not together, but he made the comments. These people so fresh, hunger no they catch them. In short, it's because they are eating good food. So I just chipped in to him, said it's not just because they are eating good food, they eat when they are not hungry.
Okay. They eat when they're not hungry. Okay.
So most kids you see out there on the street that look destitute, that look, malnourished, they get hungry and they get hungry and they get tired of getting hungry before they eat. Now, when people eat good food as at when due, they look okay.
True.
But the farm animals you just mentioned, that's where my illustration is coming.
Okay, they eat when they're not hungry.
They eat when they are not hungry. They are well fed all the time.
All the time.
When you leave animals in the wild, they fend for themselves, and so sometimes they don't get food. They don't find food.
They don't. True.
And when they find, they don't find enough.
True, absolutely.
So when you feed farm animals and you are rearing them for commercial purposes, and you are now using nutritious ingredients, nutritious materials, food, maybe let's say genetically modified, to feed them all the time, even before they get hungry, they will look robust. They will look fine.
So you're saying in essence that there are no known scares.
There are no known scares
in terms of consuming GMOs.
Where we really have the scares, like I mentioned, is one: what if the ability, the science to modify organisms genetically falls into wrong hands?
In other words, there could actually be a problem if it falls into the wrong hands.
And that's where the biosecurity expert in me kicks in. We need to have a more robust biosafety awareness. Our food industry, our drug
at the government level?
Yes, at the government level, and then at individual level, we need to put out the information there for people to know what is possible and what is not possible, and how to. You don't just allow people come into a facility without restrictions. One of the basic principles of biosafety, or rather biosecurity, because biorisk management is biosafety and biosecurity. One of the basic principles of biosecurity is that you don't allow unauthorized personnel. When an individual with a bad intent gets a hold on something that can turn into a biological weapon, it is very deadly.
Then don't you also see that as a problem? The centralized control of the modification of organisms, don't you see that as a political tool? For instance, thank God you mentioned the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, that of the US, that of Africa. People are also concerned. If I am going to get a GMO seed, I have to go and buy. I can't, I can't go to my farm and, reproduce one. I have to buy, which means that's the area of control also. So politically, don't you also think that that's a tool?
Thank you for this question. I love it so much. This is one of the second area of interest in the GMO
conversation. Yes.
Most organizations, I won't call names, have monopolized this. Not just the controlling authorities, but organizations who have the capacity laboratories to undertake the GMO processing. They have also monopolized. And the large amount of talks on the GMO debate falls not just on the nutritional issue, but on the financial control and political control. Some of these companies have been licensed to be the sole participants in this field. And without going through them, without going to them, it looks like nothing comes out to the world. So there should be liberalization, a scientifically arranged, programmed liberalization, so that we don't have to depend on these few
companies or organizations.
Okay. So how do we achieve this? Because if I'm a farmer and I'm a corn farmer, for instance, and after every cycle, I still have to go to the same person to purchase my seed, while organically or naturally, after my every season, I'm supposed to have where I store my seedling for the next farming season. But in this case, I have to go back again to buy, and they will control my yield, they will control the supply, and also control the price. This is where people also have a problem, because it's centralized.
Of course, that's one genuine concern.
So how do we decentralize it, or how do we liberalize it? Knowing that an average farmer like me, for instance, I'm not a scientist.
We keep talking. We keep talking, making the government, to understand these restrictions and these shortfalls. And if we keep our voices at it, for a reasonable long time, we'll be able to come up with something. Genetic modification cannot be left open-ended without control. If you allow people to experiment, do things by themselves, they might be doing a long process, natural means, and getting frustrated that they are not getting at the expected end point or yield. While some people will find out that, okay, this method I'm using now is bringing something that can kill goats that used to eat these leaves are now dying. It means this thing can kill human beings. They will just veer off from that angle and start using it for nefarious activities. And without some proper technology, some of the precise methods are quite out of the reach of the ordinary man.
Don't you see that as a problem? Because in some quarters, let me even say it, in some religious quarters, there is this argument and this field of thought that GMO is leading to a one-world government. It's leading to 666. That's the whole idea.
What is that leading to a one-world government?
Yes, because
almost everything. The monetary system is leading to it. GMO is leading to
a one-world government.
Which one now?
So Christians are afraid that if this continues, if you don't have the mark of the beast, you cannot be able to buy seed, you can't buy meat, you can't buy anything.
Let's look at something in a less speculative way. And
no, but for them it's not speculation. It's like a prophecy coming true.
What do you prefer? You have open tap water, or you have potable drinking water, like the bottled water?
But if I have a bottled water that I have to pay through my nose to get, only one person produces it, and sometimes there are preconditions before I get that bottle or table water, then is that not bondage?
That's the area I say we need to keep our voices at it, But then it's safer to have well-produced, well-regulated potable water for whatever occasions, whatever needs we have, than open source water, which is, bound to have contamination and then lead to diseases and so on. Now, the same thing goes for genetically modified organisms. We need to speak up so that government can critically look at this and see how they can make it affordable and accessible to the general public, those who really need it, like the farmers, to continue doing their business. Allowing GMO processes to be out of the reach of the ordinary farmer, the ordinary people, will definitely stifle the process itself. When people don't even have the funds to access it, those who are, in the business will fold.
They'll fold, right? And then the other place, I think probably the last place we'll be looking at is I don't know if it's founded, actually, a fear that when you cultivate GMO seedlings on a particular soil, it damages or disorients the structure of the soil, that when you plant organic seedlings there, it does not grow, or the yield goes down. I don't know how true that is, but I think I've also heard that in some
I
quarters.
think I have a balancing argument to that, in that what you are modifying most of the times is like pest resistance, herbicide resistance, because some of the herbicides kill the crops as well.
Yes, they do.
But you have a crop that can resist the herbicide, so that particular chemical kills only the weeds.
The
and
weeds,
so on.
yes.
Now you also are modifying yield, and the yield is taking as small as you have to have a larger output. The soil has a certain nutritional content for the plant. Leaving it ordinarily in the organic, natural mode, the plant will only yield 6 kg.
Okay.
Now, with the genetically modified one, you are not importing a new soil. It's still the same soil, but you are now having 10 kg, or even double the 6 to 12 kg. That's basic. What happens? The plant does not do any other business other
It does
than
not impact on the soil negatively.
That's just the thing. Now, but genetic modification for some plants make arid regions to even grow plants with just saline soil. A soil that can supply them the salt that they need.
Only.
Now, that is an improvement to agribusiness. That your soil is no longer good itself, but the genetic modification has made this plant to be able to grow there and give you a good yield.
So where does the plant get its nutrient to grow?
Because you changed it, that it doesn't need the kind of nutrient that comes from that type of soil alone, but can come from the water table.
Okay.
That bears those salts that it needs. Most of nutrients we need are electrons, electrolytes. So these plants now are able to absorb these electrolytes, recombine them within them to form their protoplasm and then the cell structure. And that's the yield we are talking about.
So, and finally, I want to ask again, Dr. McCadicou, GMOs, does it cause cancer? That's a direct question.
There is the theoretical possibility, but there is no recorded evidence.
Okay, there is a possibility, but it's not recorded, because people also have the fear that GMOs cause cancer, it causes leukemia,
I
it
don't
causes
know
cervical
any
cancer, it causes here
in
and
my
there.
training that we have said is the GMOs that caused it. But theoretically, there is that theoretical possibility, but there is no recorded evidence, no documented evidence of cancers caused by GMOs.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. One last word to our audience and viewers who are hooked up with us regarding this GMO, probably to douse any doubt whatsoever in them when it comes to consuming GMO. What do you have to tell them?
Okay, thank you for being here, and I would like us to take this home. Genetically modified organisms have their genes changed one way or the other to help the yield of the plant, to help the plant resist what kills them. And in the end, these plants come out good. Now, every food we've been eating right from time immemorial to the recent time of genetically modified ones still go through the digestive system of the human being. The digestive system of the human being has been designed by God Almighty, the maker of man, to do its work, digest. That's why we call it digestive system. By digestion, these things are changed and put into their normal useful molecules. And the body now recombines them in a way that helps the body to grow and look nice. My belief is that GMOs are not out there to cause the speculated worries we have.
Thank you very much. We have been discussing with Dr. McCadicou Orji, a hematologist And I think I love what he did say at the beginning, that he would be intervening as a scientist. So you've been hearing from someone who understands, better on this whole, conversations. And I believe you picked a thing or two. I want to, of course, have your comments in the comment sections. Let's see what you learned. What are, of course, your other line of arguments? But just know one thing. It's been confirmed here that GMO is something that is good for you. It's good for me. But the government needs to make it more liberalized so that the ordinary man can be able to have access to their seedlings when they need them. It's still Infosynthesis. I am Osondo Mbono. See you in the next episode.